Hey Yankees fans, welcome to Yankees Rumors and News, your go-to spot for the latest buzz and updates about our team. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a scoop. When Trent Grisham accepted the qualifying offer, the reaction across Yankees Nation was immediate and emotional. The kind of collective gasp that tells you just how fragile the relationship between the fan base and the front office has become in this era. Social media lit up, radio shows went into overdrive, and even Michael Kay, who has often pushed back against what he sees as unfair criticism of the organization, found himself questioning the move. For many fans, it felt like another reminder that the modern Yankees are not the free-spending juggernaut of old, but a franchise operating within carefully drawn financial lines. Lines that Grisham, at least in theory, might have blocked from pursuing bigger, shinier names. That initial frustration made sense when viewed through the lens of expectations. Yankees fans are conditioned by decades of dominance to believe that financial power should always translate into star power. The idea that a qualifying offer acceptance could somehow interfere with pursuits of elite talent like Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette struck a nerve. Those players represent the type of offensive force and star appeal that fans crave, especially in a division and league that has grown increasingly ruthless. Yet as the dust settled, reality began to set in. Both Tucker and Bichette came off the board quickly, commanding massive deals that the Yankees, whether by choice or by philosophy, were never truly in on. That is the uncomfortable truth of this current chapter in Yankees history. The team has resources that most franchises can only dream of, but it also operates under self-imposed spending limits that shape every decision. Whether that approach is wise or short-sighted is a debate that rages on, but within those constraints, the front office clearly viewed Grisham as a calculated, manageable bet, on paper at least. The value proposition starts to make more sense the deeper you dig into the numbers and the broader market context. Grisham is expected to earn just over $22 million in the season, tied to that qualifying offer, a figure that initially seemed steep for a player who has often been defined more by his glove than his bat. But when compared to the rest of the outfield market, that number begins to look far more reasonable. Scott Boras is still working to find multiple suitors for Cody Bellinger, and when that deal finally lands, it is widely expected to surpass what Grisham will make, both in annual value and total commitment. Bellinger will almost certainly secure a multi-year contract, while Grisham is locked into a single season, a structure that gives the Yankees flexibility if things go south. That flexibility matters more than fans might want to admit. A one-year deal means the Yankees can pivot quickly if Grisham struggles badly. Whether that means a mid-season trade or a change in role, the worst-case scenario is clear and unromantic. If he is simply terrible, the team is not chained to a long-term mistake. That kind of optionality has real value, especially for an organization that seems increasingly cautious about future payroll commitments, of course. No one is pretending that Grisham is the superior hitter when compared directly to Bichette or Tucker, barring a dramatic and unexpected collapse from either of those stars. Grisham will always rank behind them in terms of pure offensive upside, but baseball is not played in a vacuum, and value is not determined solely by who has the prettiest swing or the most all-star appearances. If Grisham can repeat or come close to the production he delivered in the previous season, his decision to accept the qualifying offer starts to look like a bargain relative to what those other players will earn over the life of their contracts. To put that into perspective, Tucker secured an eye-popping deal that carries an average annual value north of $57 million through the end of the decade, with opt-outs baked in that give him even more leverage. Bichette, now set to play in Flushing as his father once did, landed a shorter but still massive contract with an average annual value of roughly $42 million. Along with the ability to opt out after a single season, those numbers reflect star power, market demand, and long-term belief in elite offensive ceilings. Grisham, by contrast, occupies a different tier. He is widely viewed as the third-best bat among that trio, but that gap narrows significantly if he delivers specific benchmarks. If he clears more than 20 home runs, posts a weighted runs created plus north of 120, and settles into a wins above replacement range between 2 and 3, that contract becomes an outright steal in the current market. Last season, Grisham posted a weighted runs created plus of 129, a figure that sits surprisingly close to Bichette's 134. That kind of proximity is not trivial, especially when the salary gap is so dramatic. there is also a fascinating timing element at play. If Bichette opts out after his first season and both players manage to replicate or approximate their most recent production, they could hit free agency at the same time. In that scenario, Grisham will have earned roughly half of what Bichette will make in his single season, despite delivering offensive value that, while not identical, is at least within shouting distance. That is where the argument for Grisham as a smart, if unspectacular, move gains real traction. Tucker remains in a category of his own. He is widely considered one of the 10 best hitters in the league, and his most recent weighted runs created plus of 136 came despite dealing with injuries that would have derailed lesser players, being more than 30% better than league average. While banged up is a testament to his talent. It is easy to imagine him flirting with numbers in the 140s or even 150s, especially in an environment like Los Angeles that seems engineered to maximize offensive output. Even so, if Tucker merely repeats that level and Grisham holds steady, the cost-efficiency gap becomes impossible to ignore. All of this analysis, however, circles back to a larger and more uncomfortable point. The ideal outcome was never Grisham alone. A franchise truly intent on maximizing its competitive window should have found a way to pair Grisham with one of those elite bats, especially Bichette, with the financial muscle the Yankees possess, even operating under internal limits. A stronger push could and should have been made. Fans are not wrong to feel that settling for value instead of star power reflects a deeper shift in organizational philosophy. Viewed through the eyes of Hal Steinbrenner, though, the picture looks different. Grisham represents safety, predictability, and fiscal restraint. On paper, he is a solid bet who allows ownership to sleep at night, even as enormous tax bills loom on the horizon. That tension between ambition and caution defines the modern Yankees, and it is why every move feels so heavily scrutinized. Someday, perhaps, the franchise will once again be owned by someone willing to lean fully into its financial advantage. Someone unafraid to chase stars with relentless aggression. They may never have the backing of a Guggenheim-sized empire, but fans would gladly settle for an owner eager to reinsert the Yankees into every major free agent conversation. Until then, players like Trent Grisham will continue to symbolize both the frustration and the reluctant pragmatism of this era. A reminder that value, not extravagance, is the guiding principle in the Bronx right now. If you're enjoying the updates, drop a like and let us know in the comments your thoughts on this rumor. Something is definitely stirring behind closed doors, and the kind of whisper that is starting to echo around the league does not come from nowhere, especially when it involves a franchise that rarely moves without intention. The word floating through the grapevine is that the Yankees have quietly pressed the button on Cody Bellinger. And when people close to the situation say press the button, they mean commitment, urgency, and a sense that this is no longer casual interest or background noise. This feels like one of those moments where the front office leans back, looks at the board, and decides that hesitation is more dangerous than action. Bellinger, a name that still carries weight and mystery in equal measure, is suddenly at the center of a storm of speculation that is growing louder by the hour. And the tone of that chatter suggests that something is far more advanced than anyone expected. What makes this situation fascinating is not just the player involved, but the timing and the intent behind it. Bellinger is a free agent, a former star who has lived through the extremes of superstardom, doubt, reinvention, and redemption. And the Yankees are known for being both cautious and bold in the most unpredictable ways. People around the league are starting to say that this is not a simple depth move or a short-term patch. The feeling is that the Yankees see something here that others might be undervaluing, and that belief is driving them toward an agreement that, on paper, sounds almost surreal. The phrase absurd detail has been whispered more than once, and not in a negative way, but in the sense that the structure being discussed feels creative, aggressive, and very un-Yankees-like in its flexibility. Sources close to the chatter claim that the front office has been obsessed with versatility and upside, and Bellinger checks those boxes in a way few others can. An outfielder who can slide into first base without blinking, a left-handed bat with power still lurking under the surface, and a player who has already tasted the highest highs of the league. All of that fits into a narrative the Yankees love to sell to themselves and to their fans. The rumor is that they believe the environment, the lineup protection, and the expectations in New York could unlock something special again. This is not being framed internally as a gamble, but as a calculated bet on a player who has already proven he can dominate when the piece is around. him a line. Now here is where the speculation takes a sharp turn into jaw-dropping territory. The detail that has people raising eyebrows is not just the money, but how that money is supposedly being arranged. The talk is that the Yankees are exploring a deal that heavily leans on incentives, performance triggers, and opt-out flexibility that benefits both sides in a strangely balanced way. Instead of a rigid long-term commitment that could age poorly, the structure being floated feels almost like a dare to destiny. If Bellinger performs at an elite level, he gets paid like a superstar. If he settles into solid production, the team maintains control without crippling their future. Insiders are calling it absurd because it sounds too clever, too tailored, and too risky to be true. Yet that is exactly why people believe it might actually be happening. There is also a sense that this move is about narrative as much as numbers. The Yankees have been criticized for feeling stale, predictable, and overly reliant on familiar formulas. Bringing in Bellinger under a headline-grabbing agreement would send a message that they are willing to think differently, to embrace a storyline of resurgence rather than just dominance. Bellinger arriving in pinstripes would not just be another transaction. It would be a statement that the organization still believes in star power with a twist. In betting on talent that has already seen the mountaintop and is hungry to climb again. That kind of belief can be intoxicating inside a clubhouse, especially when players sense that management is willing to meet ambition with trust. Another layer to this rumor is the idea that the Yankees feel a quiet urgency, not panic, but awareness. The league is shifting, younger teams are rising, and standing still is no longer an option. The whispers suggest that the front office does not want to get caught watching another team unlock Bellinger while they play it safe. There is a feeling that the window, not just for contention, but for relevance and intimidation, demands a move like this. Bellinger represents upside without the full weight of long-term risk, especially if the rumored clauses and escalators are real. It is the kind of chess move that only makes sense when you believe you are one step ahead. People close to Bellinger's camp, according to the rumor mill, are intrigued by the idea as well. The thought of playing on a massive stage with constant attention and endless pressure is not scaring him off. In fact, some say it is exactly what appeals to him at this point in his career, after bouncing through different environments and proving he can adapt. The idea of thriving in the most demanding market might feel like the ultimate validation. If the deal truly gives him control over his future while rewarding performance in a big way, then it starts to look less like a compromise and more like a calculated partnership. What is especially interesting is how quiet everything has been publicly. No dramatic leaks, no loud denials, no flashy statements, just subtle shifts in tone, careful wording, and a growing sense that something is being lined up behind the scenes. That silence is often the loudest clue with an organization like the Yankees. When they want something badly and believe they are close, they tend to move in shadows rather than spotlights. The lack of noise is feeding the belief that this is more than just talk radio fantasy, and that the framework of a deal might already be sketched out. Of course, nothing is done until it is done, and this remains firmly in the land of rumor and speculation. Deals can collapse, priorities can shift, and unexpected players can enter the picture. But the consistency of the whispers, the specific nature of the rumored details, and the logic behind the fit all combine into a story that feels unusually grounded. This does not sound like idle gossip or fan-driven dreaming. It sounds like the kind of controlled leak that precedes something real, something that catches everyone off guard while somehow making perfect sense in hindsight. If this agreement does come together, the reaction will be explosive, not just because of the name involved, but because of what it represents. A franchise known for tradition potentially embracing a more modern, flexible approach. A player known for peaks and valleys stepping into the brightest possible spotlight with something to prove, and a deal structure that challenges the old assumptions of how star contracts are supposed to look. That is why people are calling the detail absurd, because it breaks expectations while still fitting the logic of the moment. Until anything becomes official, all we can do is read between the lines, listen to the murmurs, and watch for the next subtle clue. But make no mistake, this is not random noise. When multiple voices start telling the same story, when the puzzle pieces start to align, and when the fit feels this natural despite the surprise factor, it usually means something is brewing. The Yankees pressing the button on Bellinger might sound shocking right now, but if this rumor turns into reality, it will suddenly feel inevitable, like the kind of move that was always meant to happen once someone dared to pull the trigger. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with every Yankees rumor and news. See you in the next video.